is Dr. Cristina Dominguez coming to you with another episode of Level Up. This week, I'm going to get a little bit deeper than in past weeks because at this point, I believe that all the lessons leading up to now are going to prepare you for this next step. And this step is going to take you one step deeper into getting to know yourself. In particular, your self-talk. So one of the most important things I want to bring awareness to is how your self-talk could be directly connected and influencing your mood, whether it's anxiety or sense of self, self-worth, self-esteem, depression, things of this nature. I want to be able to point it out and bring awareness to how they could be connected and what we can do about it. So today's lesson, our parents did it wrong. Our parents did the best that they could with what they had. So this isn't necessarily pointing a finger at your parent or my parent. It's about pointing the finger to how societally we are disciplining our children. How have we, without even knowing, be disciplining our children in a way that starts to formulate a negative self-talk, a negative narrative that then they take on throughout the rest of their lives. Let's start by differentiating between shame and guilt. So let's give it a second. I'm going to ask you, what is the difference between shame and guilt? You can press pause and give it some thought. And now we're back. Guilt is I did something bad. I broke a glass. I upset mom. I upset dad. I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. And what does this sound like? Hey, good girls don't do that. Hey there, bad boys don't do that. Or bad boys do this. Now what we're doing is we are trying to eliminate a behavior or influence a sense of discipline, but by defining the person for who they are. So now an action that is committed is now defining someone. So if I do this thing, it's not necessarily a bad action, a bad thing that I'm doing. I am now a bad person. So if you can see how this is starting to play out in going forward throughout adolescence and adulthood, if we are showing our children that by disciplining and motivating ourselves with shame, it starts to creep into our identity, into our sense of self. So if when we go throughout adolescence, which is when we start to think for ourselves, formulate our own thoughts, develop our own personalities, our identities, and our own beliefs, when we have the foundation of shame as a source of discipline, we start to run into a little bit of trouble because now we start to shame ourselves. Oop, if I do that, I'm a bad person. Now we're defining ourselves based off of our actions, and it starts to get confused. They start to get enmeshed. Later on in life, in adulthood, that shame, after so many years of having done it without even realize that that's what we're doing, starts to lead to the anxiety, to the depression, not feeling good enough, that poor self-esteem that then is going to feel like there's something wrong with you. Well, if we start to recognize how that narrative, that tape that's constantly playing in the back of our minds might be connected to how we're feeling, we'll pay more attention to what we're telling ourselves. There's something one time that I heard, and I'm sure it's something popular on social media that even you might have seen, that if you were to write down every word that you've said on your skin or tattoo, I think it was tattoo. If you were to tattoo everything that you've said on your skin, would it be nice looking or would it not be so nice looking? And what it does is it gives a tangible feel to what our intangible, our invisible words might be communicating to us. And that's what I'm doing today. Realizing that when we feel a certain way, it might not necessarily be coming from nowhere. Have you ever started crying? Or have you ever had a moment where you feel, oh, I'm just not feeling so good today? But I've had a great day. I have no reason to feel this way. Boom. Start to pay attention. Those feelings, those emotions don't come from nowhere. And I can't tell you how many times I've had someone tell me, hey, Dr. Chris, I've been feeling so crappy lately and I don't know why. Well, let's talk about it. What's going on? What's in your mind? And I guarantee you 10 times out of 10, self-talk, negative self-talk. How are you disciplining yourself? How are you motivating yourself? Are you being the cheerleader, really cheering yourself on in a positive way? Or are you being the ringleader? Are you whipping yourself with a negative form of motivation? Give it some thought. Are you a ringleader or are you a cheerleader? What does your self-talk look like? Now, let's go to the shame and guilt. If we are telling ourselves we are bad people because we're doing bad things, we are shaming. We are not guilting. Very important to differentiate the two, because if we're guilting ourselves, it is separated. It's something, an action that we performed incorrectly or bad or whatever. Now, if we are bad, it becomes enmeshed. There is no separation from it. It now becomes us and we become it. And the byproduct of that, sadness, depression, anxiety, and on and on. So, in recognizing that, yes, our upbringing and our parents had something to do with how our self-talk originated, because we internalized the lessons that we were taught. But that does not make you completely out of control. By taking a step back, deep breath, recognizing, I feel this way. Let's start to try to find a pattern. Oh, I was kind of talking to myself not so nice. Would you talk to your child, or would you talk to your best friend, to your spouse, the way you talk to yourself? Ask yourself right now. Would you talk to your loved one the way you talk to you? And every time I ask this question, I get the same answer. Nope. And without hesitation, no, I would not. So then why do you talk to yourself like that? Why? Because you need an extra source of motivation? Do you? In that way? Should shaming is one of the greatest sources of depression, not feeling good about yourself. If you're constantly shoulding on yourself, how are you going to feel at the end of the day? Shoulding and shaming are not sources of motivation that are going to get you somewhere and feel fulfilled. You might get there, but you're not going to feel good about yourself because you just made it an obligation. You're not giving yourself a choice to do this out of love or out of desire. You're doing it because if you don't, it makes you a bad person. Pause and rewind. Think about that again. It makes you a bad person if you motivate yourself with shame. Now, how is that going to impact our mood? Bringing attention to how something on the inside can be contributing to your feelings is probably one of the most powerful pieces that can contribute to change, because you're in control of it. Yeah, you're creating it, but you can also control it. If you made it happen, you can make it go away. So, yes, there are sources. It's not to downplay that there are crappy jobs, there are crappy relationships and crappy situations, and all of these are external. There's not much that we can do about them. But what's on the inside, we absolutely can. And this is why I want to start bringing more attention to the self-talk. Where did it come from? The fact that we can absolutely still do something about it by paying attention to how you talk to yourself. One thing I want to make sure to bring up is that positive affirmations aren't always going to work. I think, as a matter of fact, I've mentioned it in a previous episode, where your mantras, saying really nice things to yourself is nice in theory. But when you don't have a strong foundation for it to take root in, all it is going to be is a band-aid. So speaking just positively to yourself on top of a layer of negativity is kind of like wrapping poop in a bow. Sorry, not sorry, but that's what it is. So for this week, I'd say just observe. Just observe, pay attention, no judgment. There are no rights or wrongs here. Just pay attention. How do you talk to yourself? Would you talk to a loved one the way you talk to you? How might the things that you learned growing up still be with you and still be influencing you and possibly contributing to that gap in happiness and in fulfillment in your life? Think, reflect, journal, meditate, do whatever it is that works for you to help you get to that deeper place. If you have any questions, shoot me a comment below, DM, email. As always, I'm here for your questions. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Hi everyone, if you like this week's message on what our parents did wrong, please make sure to give me a thumbs up. Thank you to everybody that's already subscribed to the channel. If you haven't already, please do so, because it's only going to help you to keep up with the lessons from week to week as they build. If you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so that you can keep up to date with the latest as it comes out. Have a wonderful week.